Hello everyone, this is Michael Stephen Vargas from WeGoChess.com. So, couple of days ago, I've been on a long thought. So I'm just watching regular NBA game, basketball, and I can really imagine how these organizations are able to get their money, right, to pay the players, the basketball players. So in any sports, there are legitimate ways to for that tournament settings to be funded. However, I have wondered if such methods could actually be applied to chess and how our chess tournaments are actually funded. I did some basic Google search and I have found literally little information to how is this possible. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos that from interviews of players just to like so those that have thought right to where the money from chess tournament actually comes from. So that is the question of today. How how are chess tournaments funded? So there are many ways for a chess tournament to get funded depending on the location, the federation, those that organize the tournaments, and also how big the actual tournament is. The ways to actually get the money to give to the players and to the arbiters or the organizers can actually be different. So for one of the most common ways is through actually sponsorship. So sponsorship from private companies, usually big companies who are making a deal to have their logo be present, for example, on the hall of the event, and also during press conferences. They have those little logo in the background that is a sign that that particular company has dumped some money to sponsor this particular event. Now, why do companies do this? Why do they sponsor chess tournaments? Well, of course, advertisement. It is traction, right? But we know that companies do sponsor sports-related event for to have more reach. But why choose chess tournaments exactly? Two reasons. First off, companies could actually reduce their taxes and count sponsorship as expenditure cost to the expenditure cost, so that their tax will be deducted from what the particular tax organization of that country would even get. So these companies can allow to write off this expenditure cost since they could count it as sponsorship. Instead of that money just going to the taxes, they could just use the value of that money to sponsor some of it to chess events. And why chess events specifically? Well, that makes us come back to the second reason, which is sponsorship in chess tournaments are not as costly as with other sports. If you are going to sponsor a basketball game, obviously it's gonna be too expensive, right? Because there's a lot of traction, a lot of people are going to watch it. Of course, the organizers will require more money. With chess tournaments, since there's people who are following it, but it's not as much people, there's not as much value that the sponsor, the company that wants to sponsor has to cover. So they can dump with their expenditure cost with minimal cost. So they don't have to be seating this all much money in order to just sponsor a sport related event. This type of funding strategy though only usually works on prestigious tournaments, since those are the top events where there are a lot of spectators, something that is valuable to sponsors. If it is somewhere unknown, an unknown land that not a lot of spectators care about, it's unlikely to have any sponsorship, since the reach is probably too specific, it's not international, and there's not a lot of people just that are interested in even watching the tournament. So what about if the tournament is actually not that popular. Well, here's the second way that chess tournaments can actually be funded, which is through donations. In less popular chess tournaments, some famous individuals can choose to give money to support the chess players participating in the tourney. It is usually an individual who has a lot of personal success with finance, but has also loved the game of chess and want to support those who are aspiring to be professional. It doesn't have to be an individual though. It can also be an organization that has leaders who really like to support chess and are willing to take a loss to fund some less known and tournaments who has potential but are not as known for not known enough to have sponsors. A good example of this is Manny Pacquiao in my country, which is the Philippines, who has a lot of success being a boxer. He's probably one of the richest sportsmen in history. She's so legendary in a field that is, of course, apart from chess, but he's a chess player too. And chess doesn't have a lot of traction as much as boxing does. So, Manny Pacquiao have actually donated a lot to chess. I've seen a lot of local chess players with local YouTube. Uh, it's all about tournaments sponsored by Manny Pacquiao through donation. And so that is actually a good example. A lot of this is actually an individual from the Bobby Fischer versus Boris Spassky finals. There's this individual who actually donated so much money so that Fischer do not have to demand to the government much more money than they can afford so that the actual match could actually set in. So these are just some of the examples that tournaments can actually get money through donations. Next, prestigious chess tournaments can be funded through streaming, and not just streaming, to actually show the in live process of the event. So some local national television network could actually sponsor sort of a sponsor, but they are just paying for the right to televise the event. This is also a common way to fund tournaments that are not related to chess, but it could also be applied to chess. This, however, only applies primarily to countries that support their chess players because, for example, if a chess tournament has been streamed here in the Philippines, I don't think a lot of people would actually watch it. So, first, the tournament has to be prestigious in order for people to be even interested, even if they are a chess player, right? They won't be interested if it is a low-rated tournament. So, it has to be prestigious, and it has to be a country that supports chess, like United States and Russia. There are also a lot of streaming services online, like Chess24, where they really collect some money in order for some prestigious chess game to be streamed. So, chess tournaments can also be funded this way. Next is chess coaching services. They can also fund tournaments, chess tournaments. So, it is similar to sponsorships. However, it is quite different because the entity that in question here is not a big company. Rather, it's a small company focused on teaching students chess. It's a coaching service. This is usually present in lower rated tournaments where streaming is less acceptable. So you might think, well, the audience is too small if it's a low rated tournament. But that's exactly why it is so applicable. The audience is so small, but it is so specific that all of the audience applies to the target audience of the chess coaching service. Because think about it, chess coaching service, you can't really offer a chess coaching service on a really prestigious tournament because everybody is a master, everybody has a title, and they don't need a lot of coaching. So, lower rated tournaments is a good target for this for this organization who want to coach people, because a lot of people in lower rated tournaments are much more likely to buy their products coaching. So um, even though the potential audience is small, this sometimes these organizations will sponsor low rated tournaments in order for them to have the right to advertise their products in the actual hall, or maybe they will have a banner in there. They can make call of to action. So it is a way to fund the chess tournament. So the next way that chess tournaments can be funded is through spectator fees. So just like any other competition out there, any other sports, chess tournaments can also be funded by having the spectator pay a certain amount of fee in order to have access through the content or through the actual event. So-called, it can also be called an entrance fee, right? Spectator fees usually don't apply in lower rated tournaments since nobody is willing to watch and pay a lower rated competition, right? It usually only applies to prestigious tournaments. The rate will depend on the importance of the event, which players are involved. If the players involved are within the top 10 players of the world, or maybe it's a world chess championship match, then definitely the spectator fees is going to be really high. Some of you might not know this, but some chess players do have a lot of loyal fans that are willing to pay to watch their idols or to meet their idols live. So if the tournament has a lot of these famous players, then they may charge spectator fees in order to milk, to actually increase the funding of the prize pool. As I've said about before, the World Chess Championship in specific has a lot of earnings in spectator fees. Sometimes even celebrities who secretly likes chess, who are not open about it, comes up every now and then and even pay to be there, to have an access to the live event. Okay, it might not be as large as with other competitions, but just imagining it. If at least there's some spectator fees, it can accumulate as long as like there's more than 100 people. I think it could accumulate enough to be significant, even though it is not as large as with other competitions. Next way chess tournaments can be funded is for having an entrance fee for the players. So we have an entrance fee for the spectators. Some actually have imposing an entrance fee for the actual players. This usually happens on lower rated tournaments or for those who just gain a FIDE rating or doesn't even have a FIDE rating, right? So if you don't have a FIDE rating, you shouldn't even be you shouldn't even I mean, you're welcome to play in a FIDE rated tournament until you get your FIDE rating, but you don't have the privilege to actually compete. So in these tournaments, the organizers can actually charge you. So it can be like a gamble. Some may argue that's gambling, but the organizers are really giving you the opportunity to play. So maybe giving money to fund the prize pool is not that bad, because if you think about it, if it's the really bottom of the barrel, no company we are willing to sponsor, there's unlikely to be donation because there's no potential yet. Maybe there will, but it's unlikely. And even coach services, it's unlikely to have coaching services for I mean they can, but they usually target those that are into the game, that are more likely to actually buy, because if you're just a beginner, you're much more likely to quit than to buy more services, right? To coaching services. So that can be a way actually charging the players to fund the tournament. Next, the government can occasionally actually fund the chess tournament, because especially if it's something that a country that supports chess a lot, like the Russia or the United States, they are much more very likely to support their local players in order to thrive in the game. If you haven't noticed yet, there's a lot of Russians who are actually grandmasters, who are masters, and chess is just popular in Russia, right? So they are much more likely to receive stipends or have the government fund particular chess tournaments just to proliferate the activity of chess. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a big country that support chess exclusively. Sometimes it can even be a government that doesn't support chess entirely, but just wants to host a competition to celebrate, for example, a milestone in a different sport, to celebrate some sort of an achievement of the country, or maybe to way for politicians to publicize themselves, right? To to fund chess tournament. So there are definitely instances where the government fund a chess tournament. Now I want to talk about a conspiracy. A conspiracy about some ways chess tournaments can be funded. So I don't know the validity of this, but I just feel like the need to mention this. Some players claim. So let's talk about why do chess tournaments need funding. So they need it for prize pool, so that they can actually give money to the players who won. They need it for the organizers, right, to have some sort of compensation for the arbiters. Like, it's not free to hire people, and so then they need it for that. But they also spend the funding through the public space. So public space, where the tournament will actually be held. So that is not free. So if somebody actually sponsors a public space where chess tournaments can be held, then it will cut a lot of the funding. So in a way, it's also contributing to the funds. And there's this conspiracy that says that some hotel owners would actually reach out to the organizers in order to offer them a deal to give them a public space and through their hotel. And the conspiracy is that the motive behind this is so that people who participate in international chess tournaments, especially if it is federated, will of course need some sort of accommodation, place to stay to, right? Because we're like they are overseas, they are international travelers, so they need a hotel. So if the playing hall is within a hotel, it will be really convenient for the players, so they are much more likely to actually choose that hotel where the tournament is actually being held. So there's a kickback for the hotel owner to actually sponsor the public space, because they will have direct monetary return for that. So some chess players are annoyed by this, that it's unfair, but I personally think that it is just fair. I mean, they are getting kickback from the players, but those players will spend the money to a hotel anyway, right? They will spend that money, doesn't matter where, they will spend it, and anyway, so why not get a public space for free, right? They will get a public space for free. And so I think it's a win-win situation for the hotel owner, for the organizers, for the players. It's a mutual relationship, so I just want to share that one here. Now, these are just the common ways that chess tournaments can be funded. There might be other ways that I have not mentioned here, though I don't think that a lot of tournaments practices those if I have not mentioned it here, because these are just the most popular. There might be some really a specific country specific way that chess tournament can be funded, but on the majority, generally, these are the ways to fund a chess tournament. And if you know anything, any way chess tournament can be funded, feel free to comment below so everyone can know that and add to their knowledge of this video to take away. So if you like this video, if you enjoyed this video, you can feel free to give a like so that this video will be recommended to more people. And that is all. Sleep well and play chess.